You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
We will call the Board of Selectmen's meeting for March 20th, 2020 to order. Just remind everybody that this is a Zoom meeting. Whenever you speak, you must state your name prior to speaking. For any members of the public who wish to speak, your initial time speaking first, just state your name and your address for the record. Okay, so item one, appointments. I'll put it forward a motion to appoint Gary Szalinski as the tree warden. This is First Selectman Jamie Cosgrove.
I'll open it for discussion.
Okay, so is that you doing that through a second?
Oh, yeah, it's Selectman Dunbar. I'm opening it for seconded for discussion, yes.
Okay. All right, open for discussion.
I just have, unfortunately, I only got this information yesterday with everything that's going on. I just want to know how it's going to work. I mean, we're appointing someone that obviously already has a very crucial job for the town. So my questions that I had asked yesterday, I wasn't able to get those answers. Is this something that we'll be doing while he's working, or is this going to be done as an additional job to what he's doing now for Public Works?
So just historically, the tree warden for the town of Branford has been the Public Works Director. I believe a number of years ago, back when there was a previous director, they also had appointed the Highway Supervisor to be a deputy tree warden. However, a couple years ago, under a previous director who had limited knowledge or experience in this particular area, as well as the highway supervisor, we had then appointed another individual outside of the department as the tree warden. So we are now returning that responsibility back under the department it historically has always been under, going back since Ed Masada days. Selectman Dunbar.
All right, thank you.
And it is also Gary Szalinski was appointed a number of years ago a couple years ago as a deputy tree warden under the former tree warden Diana Ross. 2 years ago, I believe, has received his certification through the state. So he is already certified to do this.
All right, thank you. I'll move it.
All right, move second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition. Okay, item two, reappointments. Center Revitalization Review Board, Norbert Church, term to expire May 31st, 2022. Selectman Dunbar, do you mind if we just do each committee or commission as a whole and take, or do you want to?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
No, that's fine. Yep.
All right. Phil Carloni, Tricia Bohan Ridinger, and Shyler.
That's supposed to be Skylar Coulter.
Skylar Coulter. Yeah, I'm sorry. Mispronounced it. Skylar Coulter. Terms to expire May 2022, same date, May 31st.
May 31st, yep.
2022, okay.
I'll move it.
All right. Moved by Selectman Dummer, second by Selectman Cosgrove. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition. All right. Commission on Elderly Services, Mary Hahn, Jean Rico, Patricia Torrey, terms to expire December 31st, 2022.
I'll move it.
All right, I'll second that. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Community Forest Commission, Doug Welch, term to expire January 30th, 2022. Dan Fitzgerald and Shirley McCarthy, terms to expire January 30th, 2023.
I'll move it.
All right, moved. I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
East Shore District Health Department, Darlene Zimmerman, term to expire February 28th, 2023.
I'll move it.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Green Committee, Dave Minicozy and Amy Graver, terms to expire May 31st, 2023.
I'll move it.
Move. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Parker Memorial Park Commission, Edward Esborn, term to expire December 31st, 2024. Edward Masada, term to expire December 31st, 2023.
I'll move it.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Planning and Zoning Commission, Charles Andrus, term to expire October 31st, 2024.
I'll move that also.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Solid Waste Management Commission, Jeffrey Brown and Alan St. Thomas, terms to expire September 30th, 2024.
I'll move that also.
All right, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Water Commission, Dan Halley, term to expire May 31st, 2024.
I'll move it.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Willoughby Wallace Memorial Library, Thomas Pfaff, term to expire December 31st, 2024.
I'll move it.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Item 3. Any other business?
I have a couple comments for Selectmen.
Sure. You have to state your name because
Yeah,
it's
my name is Wayne Cook, and as you know, last night at the RTM and this morning at Economic Development, an issue came up that I thought was really interesting, and I said to you and others that I was going to bring it up at this meeting. Now, as you all know, and I'll confine it to this one item tonight, even though there's a lot of things I'd like to bring before the board, and I will eventually. But as everyone knows, we're going through a crisis, and there's a lot of pressure put on local businesses for just sustaining themselves, just staying in business. And it was brought up, and others expanded on it, that the town is sitting there at this point with, in the fund balance alone, the $25 million amount that is taxpayer money, was arguably, actually not arguably, but it was from overtaxation. And the question comes up by a number of citizens, including myself, is why doesn't the town take that and allocate it accordingly to those people who are struggling, particularly in business, particularly perhaps restaurants, that could really use the help now, that don't get enough from the feds, and the town could really step up. And quite frankly, for Selectmen, and I've made no secret about this, I think the amount is far too high to begin with. Other towns don't have anywhere near that amount. Matter of fact, it could be argued, and it has been argued, that a fund balance, even though it's helpful with bond rating and all this, should be around 10%, which would put us around 11, 12 million. Well, we have like 25 million. So that said, and I'm not here to debate, I'm just here to put it before the board. Why doesn't the town look at going into that during this time of crisis and helping people out?
Yeah, and I would just say, Branford is fortunate to have it be in the position we are in financially, especially in this time of crisis. Uh, as you mentioned last night during the RTM, which just adopted a budget, which, provides the program and services that not only benefit residents, but also the business as well. We did allocate just over $3 million out of that fund balance to offset the taxation requirements to meet our obligations for this year. Another thing that the town did is we just adopted a tax deferral. It's really an extension of the grace period to a 90-day grace period, where and we expanded it to all taxpayers. We didn't. So it's for residents and it's for businesses as well. That gives a 90-day grace period where there's no penalty or interest on their taxes that will be due this July 1. We are able to do that and expand that grace period to cover all taxpayers because we have that fund balance where we can then manage the cash flow. I know in other municipalities who are, looking at what they could do, they're going to be relying on issuing additional debt and things like that if the cash flow, because they're going to have a cash flow crunch. So this is where another example, you cited about it does help us with, our ratings, and it does. But it also helps, and it helps us with the timing when we have to go to the market, and it does. We benefited the taxpayers. All taxpayers have benefited from that. We were able to take advantage of going to the market when we choose to, or when we really, rather than needing to go at every time. But we try to time it where it's beneficial. We realize lower interest rates. And now with this current crisis with the deferral program, that's, this will be a real benefit to all taxpayers. I agree with you about a number of businesses that are going to be struggling. And, long after this health crisis, we get through the health crisis, we're going to be dealing with the economic crisis. And I'm in agreement with you on that. And that's where I think we need to really get our state and federal government to really look at the burden. And we mentioned before, or talked earlier with another group about the payment protection plan, which they need to really expand that in terms of the ratio of how those dollars can be used. They really need to broaden it so these businesses can use those for their fixed costs. Now, I think they are looking at it to expand it a little bit. Now it's about 75% for staff, 25% for this fixed cost. But, when you start to factor in, property taxes, rent, and insurance, I think that ratio needs to be increased to cover those and help our businesses out. So, I'm a proponent of that. But, I think what we're doing is to benefit all taxpayers, businesses included, Mr. Cook. But I, appreciate your statement.
Well, I'd like to expand on that a bit.
Sure.
I understand what you're saying about, this tax deferment. I understand about help from the state and perhaps, the federal government, also. But as you said, when you first started your remarks, Branford is in a very unique position because, and it could be very, clearly argued, because you've overtaxed us. That $25 million did not come from out of the blue. That came because surplus each year accumulated to get to the point of being 25 million. I guess my point is this, and I don't mean to get kind of flip about it, but if the town can find $1 million to put towards a coastal resiliency fund that a lot of people felt was, I don't know, let's just say presumptuous, maybe that's a good word. I think you could find some money from that surplus to help businesses out that may not be here, as you said yourself, once the health crisis is over and it becomes strictly, economic crisis. I think, again, you and I can go back and forth all night long about this. I think we're fundamentally, in agreement that there's a problem. It's just how do you handle it? And I would just ask that you, perhaps the Board of Finance, involve the RTM to whatever extent you feel, you should take a hard look at this, because that money is there. It's taxpayers' money. So what's wrong with giving it back when the taxpayers need it most? And quite frankly, bond rating's not going to go down, because you gave a few $1 million away or gave it back. None of the things you mentioned are going to be overly affected by this. So you go from 25 million to 22 million. What's the big deal? And you're going to be helping out a lot of people, relatively speaking. So I'd give it a lot of thought. I'd also like Selectman Dunbar's thoughts on this. I mean, I'm sure he has, some opinion. I mean, Selectman, got $25 million sitting there. You see what's going on around us. What do you think?
Well, as we've discussed in the past, the fund balance has been built over many years. I guess what I would say is we'd have to find out what plans we have for that money. And the reason I say that is because I know there's some projects coming up and that they may be dipping into that for those projects. So it comes out to be a balance. Do we need a project to be done, or do we need to try to help out, the business owners in town? And that's a decision that a group of people should have. I believe the governor has already given some type of a mandate, asking town leaders to put together committees to look at that. I don't know if it's together yet or if we're doing it. But your suggestion should go to that group of people and then look at everything that's going on and come back and report to the people on what, how we're going to go forward. But right now, I don't know if any of that is together at this stage. So for me to guess, it would be inappropriate.
Well, and that's a fair point. And to the first selectman who has the authority, why don't we put together such a committee? I mean, it's easy enough to get together now with Zoom. And
Yeah, no, so what the selectman is referring to is a long-term recovery committee. And we have to appoint a long-term recovery coordinator. And that is something we're exploring right now. And I've been in discussions with other towns, and also other organizations have been hosting of what that should look like, what the role is, and been providing that. So we're just getting further guidance on that, but that is certainly something, because as I stated at the beginning, we're going to be dealing with this a lot longer after the effects of this, a lot longer than the health crisis itself. So,
well, why don't we go with a short? Yeah.
No, and I agree that would be an appropriate time to, what you do with that. You look at unmet needs in your community, and it can be everything from economic needs to how, whatever is a result of the crisis. And so it's a very broad look at where, your community, what the unmet needs are, and perhaps, certainly the business community, because of, as we all agree, the impact that's going to have on them, that is going to be an unmet need. And we're going to have to, think of, creative ways to address that.
Yeah, but I think the unmet need is happening right now. I think, with all respect to the idea of the long-term recovery, we also need a short-term vision for what's going on right now. And again, if I'm correct that the 25 million is in excess, and for example, you only need 10 or 11 to maintain Branford's, albeit excellent, bond rating, then you have 10 million or so at your disposal, because contrary to what the second selectman said, I don't think projects are going to be coming up that are going to tap into that, surplus, because quite frankly, it hasn't tapped into it yet. I mean, any projects that come up, if I'm not mistaken, are usually bonded or some other financing. So again, I don't mean to keep, driving home the fact that, there's a lot of money there for Branford businesses at this point in time. But quite frankly, there is, if you look at it. And I think it's important that you look at it. That's all.
All right.
And
I think we're all in a general agreement that we're in a fortunate position where we are. We understand that there's going to be strain on. There is a right now, and there'll be a longer term strain on our business community.
Well,
And now we have to look at, utilizing what resources we have and how do we effectively use
yeah,
those.
well,
And that's where we may differ a little bit.
we're not in general agreement, because general agreement would be, Wayne, that's a great idea. I'm on it tomorrow. And that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing is like, well, yeah, we'll kind of look at it when we get to it. Well, the time is now. The time is, nobody would argue that the time is now. These businesses are hurting right now. So you got to do it now, or else you won't see those businesses, many of them. I don't think. I mean, I'm amazed how they can sustain themselves through this. Just amazed. I don't see how it's happening, because where's the income coming from? They must have a good deal saved, or putting it together. This is a really, health-wise, it's a terrible thing, but economically, it's an absolute crisis. So I really implore you to do something, and I mean, do something right away.
Okay. Thank you. Actually, with that, I'll go into. You may be aware that today, May 20th, many of the area restaurants, or per the governor's executive order, restaurants would be able to reopen with limited occupancy, outside seating only, based on 50% of their occupancy. That executive order requires a application process through the health department, as well as the town. We did yesterday, after going through the executive order, we're able to finalize an application process, which we have put online, as well as the East Shore Health Department has finalized their application. I will just say that the town is going to take a proactive approach on this. We've assembled a team, a representative from the building, zoning, and East Shore Health Department and the fire marshal, and they are going to begin going right to the restaurants. They will bring the application. They will bring a site plan, so we can do the required layout, that sketch that is required. They will assist with the filling out of the application with the restaurant owners, and will then be able to sign it right there, as well as hand over the approval letter. So we are trying to expedite this process. We're trying to make it as easy as efficient as possible. So they will start tomorrow going out to a number of area restaurants. If you're interested in reopening, and there's different categories. There's, reopening under existing outside areas, if you want to expand the outside areas, but the town will come to your place of business, to your restaurant, and will assist you through that process. So once again, they're going to start tomorrow, but feel free to call the building department to schedule an appointment if needed. But I know they've already reached out to a number of restaurants, and we'll be following up with them directly again tomorrow. So we hope to just a quick turnaround. So once again, that's an example. We're trying to help the community, the business community, as they reopen.
And that's a great idea, quite frankly, but it'd also be nice to see if the town came to a restaurant and brought them a surplus check and said, this is to help you out, get you over the rough spot. And again, I understand the town is doing things, good things, and congratulations, and thank you for doing that on behalf of all of us, because we all want to see the town do well. But again, I keep getting back to that, and I hope it's been, absorbed by the various town officials that this should seriously be looked at.
Yeah.
Thank you.
First Selectman Cosgrove?
Yes.
It's Ray Ingraham from the RTM. Hey, I just finished dinner at Lenny's with my wife. Chris and Tom, we're very excited to get through the process very quickly. Earlier today or yesterday, that it was easy to get through, easy to understand. So it's a good sign to see, as I was leaving, because I was there very early, that the place was filling up. So hopefully that's happening all over town.
Yeah, and actually, this discussion just reminded me of another initiative that's out there, and I just want to. The Branford Rotary is doing in conjunction with the town of Branford through the Branford Counseling Center is the Help Out Takeout program, where if you're interested in contributing, basically what the program is, if you have not heard of it, the Rotary will purchase gift cards from local restaurants. So there's a source of income to the restaurant. And then there's an application process for individuals at the Branford Counseling Center for those who either lost their job or even had their hours reduced, where they could make a simple application and get a free gift card to a local restaurant. It's a great program. It's dual purpose. It, not only helps individuals who may have are faced with challenging times, but it really to the point that this discussion all centered around, it really supports the business community. So those partaking in it, whether are really helping the business community as well. So you can find information on that on the town website through the counseling center or the Branford Rotary if you're interested in either contributing or partaking in the program. With that, any other discussion? Selectman Dummer, I believe you're muted.
Oh, that won't help us. I make a motion to adjourn.
All right, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Aye.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.